Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us. Welcome to the first call of the Crew Connections and Shared Wisdom series of 2023-2024. Today we are talking with Diseña Futuro about empowering teachers through human-centered design. Now, this conversation is around delving into the world of HCD and really the transformative impact that it could have on teachers and classrooms. We'll be talking about Diseña Futuro's experience using human-centered design as a tool for change in Ecuador and what they're looking for in the future in terms of their work and creating impact. Now, the organization is at the forefront of using design thinking principles to inspire teachers to create user-centered solutions for challenges that the teachers face in educational settings. Now, in this call, we want to really explore what are the principles of human-centered design and what are the application in the education, what are its application in the education landscape, and are there any real-world examples of how it has empowered teachers? And we're going to be learning from Pamela and Sebastian. Thank you, Pamela and Sebastian, for joining. Pamela is the founder and CEO of Diseña Futuro. She is the partner of design of the Design for Change Network, and she holds a master's in social policy from the London School of Economics. And Sebastian is the community engagement leader at Disena Futuro, and he is a political scientist from Universidad Casa Grande. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Sebastian.
Very good.
It's gonna be an interesting call with very interesting Spanish names, which are gonna put my African nature to the call. But welcome very much. Pamela, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself and then we'll go to Sebastian.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam and crew, for inviting us to this call. It's a pleasure to be here to share a little bit more about our organization and how the technology and how crew has helped us multiply the impact of getting more people and more teachers, especially more students, to use human-centered design to solve problems from their community. Well, we started this project. I was like 20 years when it started, so it was like 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. And when we started, we didn't know how were we going to end up. It's just like that's one of the principles of design thinking. I think, Sam, we were going to talk about the principles of design thinking. Well, that is one is probably experimentation, and this Diseña Futuro is a product of that deep iteration and deep experimentation of what works and what works with children. So we started it in Ecuador, specifically in Guayaquil, which is the second largest city in Ecuador, and we're spreading it around the country right now. So yeah, that's basically how it started, and that's most of my professional career in Diseña Futuro.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that introduction. It's nice to see that the organization already, lives according to the principles that it programs around. Sebastian, quick introduction for yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, crew, Sam, and Kelvin, Nelly, and everyone who is here today accompanying us. Thank you very much, crew, for the opportunity to, I would not only say like it has made us more influential and to reach on points, many points of our country, but I will say better. Like we have make a better and more efficient way of doing so. Right now, I'm a operation coordinator in Diseña Futuro. I started as a volunteer and have been growing along with the foundation.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sebastian. Now,
and yesterday was Sebastian's birthday, so
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
birthday.
Thank you very much.
I think.
Awesome. So Pamela, I'll come back to you. And you've already started to briefly introduce Diseña Futuro. I would like you to talk to me about what inspired you to found this organization, and why did you choose education? Why did you choose human-centered design as a tool as well? So it's three questions in one. Why did you start the organization? Why human-centered design, and why the education landscape as well?
Yeah, I think well, first, why I think the first thing is why education, because that was how the process started. I thought about doing an education program when I understood that none of the problems of that the country was facing was going to get really solved until the quality of education of Ecuador improves. That's something that that's our why in a certain way, to improve that quality of education and to give the opportunity, because we know that education opportunities can change a lot of lives. Most of us have been part of that transformation, of that opportunity. So we know that, and I'm quoting another member of the NGO. We know that if we have this opportunity, we have the responsibility to multiply that. So in that sense, we started doing something like, okay, let's start to improve the grades. That's the first thing when you say quality of education, that let's improve the grades of the children. However, and we started doing a volunteer project that consisted basically on going to the houses of people that don't have a very good quality of education, that probably here the public sector education is very bad. So that probably they study in public institutions, and we were helping them do their homework. That's how we did that. That's how we started. And we started at seven volunteers helping kids doing their homework. But however, we have this mission very clear, that we don't have only to reproduce the inequalities of the education system, but we need to transform the education system to really make a change, and to make a product, or so that children can grow up being adults that can have critical thinking, creativity, and all these sort of abilities that are needed in the labor market, and that will enable them to have better opportunities, better scholarships, etc. So when we started that, in the first cohort, we were like, okay, but we're reproducing this. Like the homework from those students were copying the same thing from the book to another notebook. So we were like, okay, what's our impact on that? And we started, researching about what are possible ways of improving these skills that we are trying to solve, that we are trying to improve creativity, leadership, communication skills, critical thinking. Like, what can we do? And then human-centered design appeared, and design for change appeared as a methodology that is proven, that can improve the skills of the children. So we started, nobody else is doing this in Ecuador. There's no partner here in Ecuador. This was, like I say, 8 years ago. So I will send a mail. Like, they don't have to know that I'm a university student, like. And on that moment, I was also, this is coincidence, but I was also working like part-time as a student in a consultancy that used human-centered designs to give consultancy to enterprises. So I knew about the methodology, but I've never applied it in the context of education. And that's the innovation, like making not only teachers, but students getting to know how to solve the problem they face. And that's basically it. And then we started saying, okay, if there's no one else doing this and have so good results in terms of impacting the skills of the children, then let's get very good at it, and let's start to understand how it goes. Because not even we are a political science. In that moment I was a political scientist, so I was not expert in education, but in that moment not even experts in education knew about the methodology. So yeah, we started talking a lot to these types of experts, and they helped us a lot, thinking about how can we adapt the methodology for the different group ages. And yeah, that's how it started with this 7 volunteers, ended up being, I don't know, 20 the next year. And to these 20 volunteers we start to train on this methodology and see how it works. Like, did it work, did it didn't, were the children engaged, how were the evolution of these children. That's basically how it started.
Awesome. I think that's a very awesome story, and it speaks to very many stories of founders and CEOs of grassroots organization coming from very humble backgrounds. Now I'm going to throw you off the cuff here and ask you, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned over this 8-year period where you've kept iterating and coming up with new things? What are the key lessons that you've learned as a founder over these years? What keeps you going still?
What key lessons from all the process? I would say, to be open to new iterations. Like, never fall in love with your first idea. Never. It's always gonna be the worst. The first idea is always the worst because you haven't prove it. And even if it's good, you can still alter it in ways that make it more impactful or more human-centered, or in a ways that your client or your beneficiary would love it. So I think that openness is very important for founders. And then the second one is, of course, resilience, because it's of course an industry, a sector. The social sector is not always easy to enter. When we compare ourselves, because you say founder, but it's difficult. It's different to found an NGO and a startup than an NGO. With startups, it's like, you have this capacity to raise money very, very fast. And I was going to these events of startups, and I was looking at people that had 6 months in the market and they were already raising millions. And I was like, I haven't raised millions, but it's like you can't compare, because the process of creating an NGO, it's longer. It takes longer than obviously creating a normal startup. So be patient with yourself and don't compare yourself with things that are not really comparable. That would be my second thing. And then the third one, never give up on, be ambitious enough, and never give up on that mission. Because we started small, but we knew from the beginning that we were going to be that we are going to be big. And we think that we've grown, but we know that this is just the start. We started as university students, but since the beginning knew we were going to make a systematic change, and that's what we're still doing.
Awesome. Three very important lessons. Never fall in love with the first iteration of your idea. Do not compare yourself with other, non-comparable people, and always be ambitious. I love that. Now let's get back into the conversation. And you had mentioned very rightly that you have gone through a couple of iterations of human-centered design and thinking about how do you provide that? How do you get that to students at different levels? Could you explain how Diseña Futuro's programs currently operate, and how those levels are actually planned?
Yes, of course. We have in Diseña Futuro right now, we have three areas of impact. The first one is education, the second one is entrepreneurship, and the third one is public innovation. So I will talk today more about the education part. So in education, we have classes or boot camps for students, and trainings and certifications for teachers. Those are the or two basic programs. We started as more oriented to students because it was difficult to start saying, starting small and saying like, we're going to train you and certificate you in this methodology. First, you need to have a record that you're doing that for a long time with students. So we started with students. We work a lot with. We started working with the community sector, the NGOs, and then right now we work with schools, with private schools in that sector, like in students. It's like Diseña Futuro is the provides schools with the experience of having an entrepreneurship bootcamp in their school as an extracurricular activity for private schools. And then on the other line for teachers, we have also like two sides in the private sector, that it's basically commercializing and certificating teachers in human-centered design for education. And also, or part, because we are an NGO, we're constituted as an NGO, so it's a non-for-profit. What we do is that's how we sustain all this commercialization and selling of the certificate to students and teachers. We fund the process of training teachers in the public sector. So we have an agreement with the Ministry of Education, and with that agreement, we can enter schools and we can train teachers from 4 regions in Ecuador, 4 different regions in Ecuador. And that's the plan of scaling. We want to reach more and more public teachers by also selling this product to the private sector.
Awesome. And then I think you've even gone ahead of the conversation and even given us a lot of value in terms of thinking about, how do you even sustain an NGO? Because as you rightly said, founding a startup and founding an NGO are two different things, and you have to think about, what are the creative ways that you have to raise funds in that sense. So, maybe at this point, for someone who's wondering, because we've been talking a lot around human-centered design, for someone who's wondering, what human-centered design is, what those principles are, could you give a very quick, masterclass on what human-centered design is?
Yeah, I will try to be very quick because it's easy. Theoretically it's easy, but human-centered design is a methodology that let you find creative ideas in a systematic way to problems, any sort of problems. So it's as big as that sounds. When I try to explain it better, it's like the scientific method of problem solving. So if the scientific method is observation, steps, hypothesis, steps to the experiment, doing the experiment and finding your conclusions in order to understand something about the world or how the world works, here is the same sort of steps to find a solution and implement it to solve a problem, and a specific problem. What are those steps? That's the tricky part, because as you can imagine, getting to know something from the world can be a little bit linear, and scientifics are a little bit linear. I would say that problem solving is a bit more complicated in that sense. But the main steps of that form design thinking, I would give you the steps of and how we explain it to children, because there are many. If you put design thinking or human-centered design on Google, you will find a lot of images, and some are 3 steps, some are 5 steps, some are 7 steps, but it's the same thing. I will give you the simplified version that we teach children from even 7 years old. So the first one is feel. The steps are feel, imagine, do, and share. That's the abbreviation is FITS, because it's an acronym: feel, imagine, do, share. So FITS. In the part of feel, you start understanding the problem. So all of our classes, we started asking the children, and we expect the professor to ask the children, what bothers you from your day, from the place you're living, from your community, from your school? Like, what bothers you? What things, what you find is a problem for you as an individual? And it's you trying to get into their feelings, to see, okay, I think that this should not exist. Like, there are feelings of social injustice, for example, or feelings of just a lot of climate change and things that are especially empathic with the planet. So the children identify a problem, then they, in the feel part, is just, okay, you already felt that this is sort of a problem, but now you need to understand how the other people that are being affected by the problem are understanding the problem. So we make the children go and find those people and talk with them, and have small interviews or observations about how the problem starts or works. So, for example, I would give the one example of the last version here. These were children that works or that lives in a community that doesn't have water or necessary food, so they have to, because they're in an island, so they have to import the water and food from other sources, and it's usually very expensive. So they thought about, okay, that's a problem for me. Okay, perfect. They went to their neighborhoods and say, yes, of course, that's a problem. We can do that. We have to wake up very early in the morning to bring water and to bring services and everything. Perfect. Now, that's the feel part of the understanding everything, and centering the problem in the individual, in the user. That's why it's called human-centered. Then comes the imagine part, which is, okay, what can we do what can we do about it? What are all the solutions that we do about it? So we can, make a new business with this. We can, and for these children, we can grow our own crops, and start providing the community with this sort of crops. So yeah, they started doing this. Started to see if it works, what the parents thought about, because they would, of course, need help from the parents and from teachers, and maybe a little bit of money from the enterprises that work near that area. And then comes the do part, and I think this is important, especially in the education sector and the traditional education sector, where you write a thesis of 100 pages long, and then you have the 3 last recommendations of that, but then it stays there in the library of your university, and no one ever read that thesis again. We make the children act on their ideas, and understand, okay, let's make this happen, even if it's a prototype, even if it's little. Let's see what happens, and let's see if our hypothesis it's correct. So they start gathering the funds, and they move their entire community to start this small project, and they started growing their own crops. And then, of course, this do part can be, and then they found that the earth, the soil was not rich enough, so they have to move to another part. So there's a lot of experimentation there, and trial and error in that phase. And then finally comes the share part, which is what I'm doing right now, probably it is sharing their experiences to other people, to the country, to the world. Because if we don't create the platform for the children to tell about their situation, their story, what they've done, what they achieved, probably you wouldn't know about this case, for example. And they need to share it to scale it. So that's basically design thinking, a very brief way of understanding design thinking. Feel, imagine, do, share. And the principles are basically human-centered design, radical collective action, creativity, trial and error, and show, don't tell. Those are the mindsets.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And I think that's a very easy way to explain it, because the principle stays the same. The stages may change, but the principles stay the same. It's the same thing. You have to center yourself around the problem, understand it, think about the solution, and so on. So thank you very much for that insight, and thank you for actually also including an example for us to follow through with. Now let's talk about the mindset and skills. In your view, what are the mindset and skills that people come with before the training? So be it students, if they're coming for the boot camp, what are the mindset they come with before the boot camp, and what mindset do they live with? Same for the teachers, when they're doing their training and certification, how are they coming into the program and how are they living? What's that difference, and where have you seen the most impact?
Okay, the first one, and it's what we are the first, and I would say the most important one, is what we call the I can mindset. So what we know is that children and teachers after our programs transform their way of thinking from being a passive being or user or victim in a way that these problems happen to them and they can't do anything about it, to a more active, to take a more active action towards those problems, and to understand that if they leave the problem, they can take actions to make the problem, to solve it in a way. It's probably sometimes it's not like they will completely solve the problem, but they understand that they are actors that should be make something about it. And that's probably the most important thing, the I can mindset. That goes directly linked with the growth mindset. And maybe that the growth mindset, that I take these concepts from Carol Dweck. The growth mindset is the ability to understand that our brains and are able to make a change, that really they can grow, and that mistakes makes us grow. So that's probably those two, or I would say that one mindset is what it's more is what we found it's more impactful in the children. And what it's interesting about this is that you can go from this sort of activity to another activity. So if I thought that I couldn't solve this problem that I thought was huge for my community, what can I do? If I can do that, there's nothing that I can't do. That's the mindset that we're trying to get. So for example, the math problems or language problems, like we are seeing that this sort of mindset will impact positively in other areas of the children's life. Another important thing is, of course, creativity, and this has a lot to do with how the teacher approaches the children, because most of the time the teachers are like they are in the feel. Imagine that you're the teacher and you're in that position all the time of, I need to have the answers to the questions of the children. Like that's what teachers does, right? Especially in the first years. So you have this pressure as a teacher. And then what we do with this methodology is like try to be you don't have to have all the answers. Actually, it's better if you don't have the answers, because you would make the children go there and find their own answers and give you a perspective of the world that probably will surprise you. So that's another thing. So if the teacher assumes this position of more like a listener and less like a responder, I don't know, then creativity boosts in the class, because children will think like there's no right or wrong answer. And if that's the case, if you are, as a teacher, you're able to create that environment in your classroom, then the children will be able to give all the ideas that they can, even if the ones that they think that they would not have that in mind, but you have the freedom to create. So I would say I would take those two mindsets, so that because there are a lot more, but I would explain those two as the main ones.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now I want to come to Sebastian. Sebastian, bring us to the technology. So how has the organization, really incorporated technology, and in what ways do you leverage technology to enhance that human-centered design experience for both teachers and students?
Hi, how are you? Yeah, it has been like game changing, I would say, because in a way it has made us closer to the teachers and therefore to the students. Because before, how we do it, we did a capacitation with Pamela, with Julio, and with the others. One that is where we have the people live there, but after sometimes the capacitation, after a time, like the capacitation is divided into, the first part is where you go physically to the place, and the second part of the human-centered design is that you have to apply it. That's how you learn. So this second process sometimes takes weeks or takes even months. So the things you learn in the capacitation, sometimes teachers would forget. So having a site where they can go constantly, read and reread what they have learned before is better for them, because they can, in a more easily way, transfer this knowledge they got in the capacitation to the students. It's easier. Before, we had like a manual of design thinking for teachers that it was well designed, but not many teachers use it. Like some of the very best teachers like always like use it, but it was not the thing that they constantly do. But having like an interactive and a attention grabbing platform with videos, with music, with text, it makes people want to be there, and it's also available 24/7. Because before, if a teacher had a question, it would write to our WhatsApp, to Pamela's WhatsApp, to mine WhatsApp, and it was good. We like it, but it is physically and like humanly impossible to answer 40 questions at the same time. So it was like also time consuming and physically and timing for us. So having this platform makes us resolve a lot of questions and have also an easy way to follow up to teachers, because before we have to the same answer to ask each one of them, hey, in which step are you? Like, do you want help? And this with every one of them. But now, like, we just in a very easy clicks, we put report, we put what we want to know, and then we have a literally report of each one of them. That's the two main things I would say. They have an easier way to get the knowledge, to acquire the knowledge, and also transfer it to kids, to the students. That is the end goal for us. And also like the follow-up. The follow-up, it has made us life easier in that way.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, one more question before you can share your screen and show us how your crew platform looks like. What has been the reception of the teachers receiving this new tool? They're used to this particular way of doing things, and now you're introducing this new tool where there's videos and so on and so forth, and there is less WhatsApping. So what has that reception been like for the teachers?
it has been a change, obviously. At first, at in the first stages that we start to introduce this new side, this new technology part, some of the teachers were a bit scared because at the beginning we had a problem with the link and etc. But after a while, like the feedback we have got is that if you really interact with the page, you don't get lost. Like it's really easy, it's really intuitive to work with, and yeah, we have like have some insights about how teachers are getting how are using it. We get the information or their feedback by two ways. First is by forms. Each one of the users, we give them a form so they can give us feedback in real time, but also we have interviews for these teachers so we can learn in lifetime what they're thinking about the platform. And the commentaries are that they like that it's not only text, they like to see us, they like to see videos that are interactive, to see new information from every now and then. And we have learned one of the things that we were talking about, that only taking notes from the methodology, like in the real capacitation, in the live one, is not enough to transfer the information or the knowledge to children. They need a backup. They need somewhere they can go 1 month after or 2 months after the capacitation and get our new notes and make the class. That and that teachers, and it is also very interesting how teachers have been making screenshots of the platforms and they're sending them to their students so they can read it beforehand the class, and this is how they prepare them to the class. And yeah, that's a new thing they have taught us about.
Yeah.
Awesome, and thank you. Yeah, okay, yes, Pamela.
No,
Something
I'm
to add
just
there.
I think that what they loved the most was the fact that there was an app that you can that you can download it to your phone in a way, because when they are in class and they are, they don't know one concept, or they forget about one concept, it's like very easy to, okay, I was saying, okay, I would do this. So it's accessible. It's accessible, and they love the fact that they can see what other teachers are doing. So it became sort of a Facebook of teachers. So it's been nice. It's been, their interactions have grown a lot.
Awesome. I like that. Another Facebook for teachers. I like that because I think one of our very early on adopters from Kenya, actually, I call my little big thing who I used to work with when I first learned of Crew. The lady used to say, this is like a Facebook for the SDGs, because we used to use it for the SDGs. So now it's nice to hear that, very intuitively you say it's a Facebook for teachers. Love it. Sebastian, please share your screen. Let us know how, showcase for the people on the call, how, your organization uses the Crew platform.
Of course.
And then I'll have one more question for you.
Perfect. Give me a second. Here it is. Do you see it?
Yes.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
This is the main entry, the main entry. So we have 6 modules. The first 2 ones are the welcoming part, where we welcome you to the organization, we welcome you to the course, and an introduction to design thinking in education, applying education. But also we have the methodology that Pamela was describing. It is divided in feel, imagine, do, and share. This setup is in Spanish, by the way, so that's why you see words that you don't understand. It's because it's Spanish. So we're gonna get into the first one, that is feel, siente, and you go on like this, and you see the methodology or the model dividing in steps. The first step is the introduction, where you have a little video where you have text introducing you to the step, but also a video that is telling you what to do and what to expect. Here is Pamela. And we try to do these videos ourselves too, so they can see because they see us in the capacitation, so it's better for them to also see us later on when you're applying them, because it's like a one-on-one. We go on to the mentality, and we have also put some commentaries here. That was what Pamela was talking about, to express what you're thinking, so you can see what other people are thinking or are doing with this information. For example, here you go, and we have also put resources, so it can help you to plan the class, or even download it and give it them to your students. This one. And at the end of each step, you have the out ticket, the ticket to go out. Is where you share all the develop or all the results you have been doing throughout the step with other people. So we can see that we can see the results of different teachers, not only us, but other teachers can see them too. So here's how it is applied in the public sector. Just a few weeks ago, this photo is from the 19th of October, the 19th of October, and this is how it's applied. Perfect. We go back here, and then we go to the same with the other ones.
Awesome. I think that's a very solid explanation and a very solid, into seeing how that works. And I love that, you showed the platform and all of a sudden it's in Spanish. So maybe let me throw my first question to you, just as we are on there. How easy was it to work with the platform and then to translate it into Spanish? So how easy was it to really ensure that your content is in Spanish, and how does that work for the teachers, considering that the platform itself was not necessarily built in Spanish?
Could you repeat the question?
So my question is around the language, because the content of the language is in Spanish, but then the platform itself was not built in Spanish. So how easy was it to, make that content into Spanish, and how are the teachers receiving that content in Spanish as opposed to English, which would be,
we have teachers that are familiar with English, but we have other teachers that are not. But and we had to translate most of the platform, most that was available to transfer. That was not difficult, but we have found some difficulties when teachers get emails from the platform and it is in English, or when they have to press some buttons that they are still in English. But there are little things. There are not many things that are still in English. We try to make the platform all in Spanish, understanding who we were serving the platform to. So yes.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, in thinking about the experience with Crew, what are some of the best practices that you would share with some of the other admins, some of the other coordinators that are really either trying to build on Crew or that have already built on Crew and that, looking to expand the engagement and so on? What are the best practices of engaging on Crew?
What are some of the best practices? First, I will say to be communicating constantly with Crew. Like we have at the beginning so many questions, and you were very good with us, asking, resolving each one of them, and also pointing out where the videos of the explanation of them were on your platform in Crew. But I will say, like, not only try to that this is a skill in human-centered design theory. Try to put yourself in the shoes of the one who is going to read it. Try to put in yourself in those shoes. Try to think how they would like it. Not only do it the way you like it, but actually that what we did is interview a bunch of teachers before doing the platform. We had already some of the knowledge done, but we interviewed them and we asked them, what would you like? What the motivations would you like to build? What game theory? What bottoms? How would you like them? And we use all that information, all those insights in the investigation and interviews we did to adequate our idea to that, to reorganize the platform in that way. And that, I would say that that was key to hear about them, and also not only in that first point, but also have constantly contact with them, like asking them, do you like this? Do you don't like this? Why do you like this? And this feedback in lifetime is so important to make the platform better and to be close to the needs of the teachers. That is the end goal for us to give them a methodology that will help them to teach the students.
Awesome. I really like how, the principles of the organization are really incorporated in how you're also integrating technology and the crew platform onto the your work. So allow me to go back to Pamela. Now, Pamela, let's talk about the impact that the organization at large has been creating. And then you can segue into what impact has the platform created for the teachers that you serve on the platform. So organizational impact, then impact of the platform for your organization.
Yes, of course. Okay, so right now we're teaching. We have certificate more than 577 professionals in design thinking or human centered design for education specifically. I say certificate because with this alliance with Design for Change, we can give this international certificate, and because it's not just about going to a 14-hour training and receiving the diploma that you assist, but there are hours of implementation of the methodology that you have to evidence that you are able to lead a group of students to find a solution and to implement that solution in the scholar setting. So that had happened for these many professionals, which means that we have reached more than 1,200 students through these teachers around Ecuador, and then directly to students, because like I told you, the boot camps are directly from us to students. We have reached 1,300 students around schools here in Ecuador. This results in more than 300 projects of change being implemented by the children and their students in 24 different cities. And with that, we also, apart from this, because the projects are amazing and some projects are very good, just the pedagogical part of the project is valuable, and the children went through a process of understanding the problem to implement it and share it. But some ideas and some projects are like very good, like they have important results, they have impact in their community, and we think that we can support them even financially. So in this year we have raised a capital for funding these sort of projects and make the children scale a little bit more their solution. These are small grants. It's like $500 or $1,500 grants. However, it's totally game changer for their projects, of course, because normally they come some comes from communities where their school doesn't have really a budget to support the idea, even though it has a lot of impact in their school, and some just comes from school where the director don't believe in the idea, or is just too busy to make the idea work. So we think that given this money, or this this money to the teachers, even raise the leadership of the teacher too inside of the school. And yeah, we right now we have 7 groups that have received capital, seed capital for their respective projects. This is the first year that we do that. And we expected, let's see what happens with the results of those projects. We were the first year we were like, oh my god, this is a very good project and it should receive some funding. And then the second idea was, okay, let's give them the funding for those projects. So I'll tell you the next year how it goes. But another thing that is important is what's the future of that impact, because that's what we've achieved with as you can see, probably this is very it's time consuming for the human part, for the talent of design for change, of the design for change. But if we get to if we put everything in the platform, in the cloud, or in the course, and we make make it more autonomous, like a more autonomous learning, so that the teachers can go on their own pace and implement it, and have the idea that they can have the certificate at the end if they have the exam and they know the concepts, and if they prove that they have achieved a project, then they won't need us anymore. Like they would just we will automatize the process, and probably they can schedule calls with us, to find solutions to some specific problems. But it can be more autonomous, and so the impact can scale a lot more. So we're on that track. We're making a problem and error. We're still in a hybrid mode, but we would like to be to start to have a totally virtual mode in the medium term, probably next year.
Awesome. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you so much for that. This has been a brilliant conversation. I had to cut it short because we're really cutting it close to the top of the hour, and that's all we had you for. But, a lot of appreciation to both you and Sebastian for sharing your stories, sharing with us the mission of Diseña Futuro, and, what you're doing. And, at the very end there, you also added where you're going and what you're looking at, which I think will inspire very many of the crew admins and many other NGO leaders who actually get to listen to this conversation. So a big thank you to both of you. I can see we had a question in the chat, 2 questions in the chat, but we do not have time for them. I will personally follow up with you, Michael, with these questions and see whether Pamela and Sebastian have any answers to them. Thank you so much for that. This brings us to the close of this fast Crew Connection and Shared Wisdom call. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. I think it has been a brilliant call. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise. Just a quick reminder to everyone who's joining us, we'll have the next series of admin panel masterclasses starting back up next week from the 5th, 6th, 12th, and 13th of December. If you join these classes, you get to learn how to manage the crew platform like a pro. Thank you very much. Good night, good morning, good evening from, wherever you're joining, and thanks. Bye.
Bye. If you
Bye.
want more information about Diseña Futuro, follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yeah, sure.
And we can connect.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
@ Diseña
Thanks,
Futuro on
bye.
Instagram. Bye bye. Thank you.